The blue creature stood before the Great Council, its body shaking with fear. Veltar had traveled across many star systems to reach this place. His home world was dying, and he was the last hope for his people. The council chamber was huge. Beings from 12 different worlds sat in a giant circle. Some looked like tall plants with moving branches. Others were made of crystal that glowed with soft light. A few had many arms and eyes that blinked in patterns. They all watched Veltar with worry. "The Ravagers have destroyed 17 worlds," Veltar said through his voice box. The machine changed his water sounds into words the others could understand. "They ate the metal cities of Altair Prime in 3 days, the crystal people of Luna. 7 lasted only 6 hours against them." The council members made sounds of fear. They had all heard the stories. The Ravagers were machines that ate entire planets. They turned beautiful worlds into empty rocks floating in space. "My people have maybe 20 days left," Veltar continued. His tentacles moved in the water suit that kept him alive. "The machines are already mining our outer moons. Soon they will come for our home world." General Kexron stood up. He was from a warrior race, with thick skin and 4 arms. "Our combined fleets have failed against them. We sent our best ships and strongest weapons. Nothing works. Our metal skin is too thick. They move too fast. They never stop." The room fell silent. These beings had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had solved every problem and won every war. But now they faced something they could not beat. "What do we do?" asked the plant, being called Elderroot. Her voice sounded like wind through leaves. "Do we just wait to die, Admiral?" Vexma, a creature with 6 legs and silver skin, touched the control panel in front of her. "We have one choice left. We must send our call for help to every part of the galaxy, even to the empty regions where no one lives." "But there is nothing out there," said General Kexron. "We have maps of the whole galaxy. Dead space, with only young stars and no life." "Then we will die trying," Admiral Dexma replied. "Begin the broadcast. Send it everywhere." Far away, on a small blue planet in the outer part of the galaxy, Dr. Lisa Morgan was working late. She was at the big radio telescope in Puerto Rico, the huge dish pointed up at the stars, listening for signals from space. Lisa had worked here for 15 years. She loved her job, but most nights were quiet. Space was mostly empty and silent. She drank her coffee and watched the computer screens show nothing but static. Then something changed. The computer started beeping. Numbers appeared on the screen faster than she had ever seen. Lisa sat up straight and put down her coffee cup. "What is this?" she said to herself. The signal was strong and clear. It was coming from far away, maybe. From the center of the galaxy, but it was not natural. Someone or something had made this signal. Lisa called her team. Within an hour, 6 other scientists had come to the telescope. They all stared at the numbers on the screen. "It's math," said Dr. Carl Bennett, who studied life on other planets. "Look at these patterns. This is not random noise. Someone is trying to talk to us." They worked all night. The signal was very complex, but it was also clever. Whoever sent it had used simple math concepts that any smart species would understand. Prime numbers, basic physics, star charts. By morning, they had decoded part of the message. Lisa read it out loud to her team. "We are dying. Our worlds burn. The machines eat everything. If any people receive this message, please help us. We have maybe days left before we are all dead." The room was quiet. Dr. Bennett spoke first. "I need to call the government. This is real. Someone out there needs help." Within 6 hours, the message was on the desk of President Helen Carter. She sat in the White House with her top advisors, reading the translated alien words over and over. "Far away, are they?" she asked. General Frank Davis, head of the Space Command, looked at his papers. "About 2,000 light years. In normal space, it would take millions of years to reach them." "What about the Aurora project?" asked the president. General Davis nodded. "We have been working on faster-than-light travel for 10 years. We have one ship that might work, the USS Defiance. The Aurora project was the most secret program in human history. Scientists had been studying strange physics and new types of engines. They had built one ship that could maybe travel faster than light, but they had never tested it with people on board. "Who would go?" President Carter asked. "Captain Jake Sullivan," General Davis replied. "He used to be a Navy SEAL, then he became an astronaut. He is our best pilot and our toughest fighter." Jake Sullivan was in Colorado when he got the call. He was training new astronauts at the Space Force base. At 42 years old, he had been to space 6 times. He'd also fought in 3 wars on Earth. "You want me to do what?" Jake asked when they told him about the mission. "Fly to another star system and help alien people fight robot monsters," General Davis said. "I know it sounds crazy." Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. "When do we leave?" They picked his crew carefully. Amy Roberts would be his pilot. She had been in the Air Force for 20 years and could fly anything. She was small and quick, with bright green eyes and short red hair. She never got scared, even when flying through storms or dodging missiles. Dr. Carl Bennett joined them as the science officer. He was young, only 31, but he knew more about possible alien life than anyone on Earth. He had studied every planet they had found and written books about what aliens might be like. The USS Defiance was not a beautiful ship. It looked like a metal tube with engines on the back and weapons on the sides. But it was strong and fast, built to survive anything space could throw at it. "Are you sure this will work?" Amy asked as they looked at the ship. "The math says yes," Carl replied, "but we have never tried it before." Jake put his hand on the ship's hull. The metal was thick and cold. "It will work. It has to work. People are dying out there." 3 days later, they were ready to launch. The ship was loaded with supplies, weapons, and everything they might need to help fight robot machines. They had food for 6 months and enough fuel to get there and back. Remember, General Davis told them over the radio, "You are not just representing Earth. You are the first humans that aliens will ever meet. Make a good impression." Jake laughed. "We'll try not to start any wars." The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Jake looked at his crew. Amy was calm and ready. Carl was excited and nervous. They were about to do something no human had ever done. Before, 3, 2, 1. The USS Defiance shot up into space faster than any ship in human history. Within minutes, they were past the moon. Within an hour, they were at the edge of the solar system. Engaging faster than light drive, Amy announced. The stars outside changed. They stretched into lines of light, then disappeared completely. The ship was moving faster than light itself, traveling through space in a way that should have been impossible. "We're really doing this," Carl said, watching his instruments. "We're going to meet aliens." Jake stared out at the strange space around them. In a few days, they would arrive at a place where robot machines were eating planets and killing entire species. They were 3 humans in one small ship, flying into a war that had already killed billions. But Jake was not worried. Humans had always been good at fighting. It survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. They had climbed out of caves and built cities and rockets and dreams. Now they were going to save some aliens. And maybe, just maybe, they would show the galaxy what humans could do when someone asked for help. The USS Defiance flew on through the dark between stars. Carrying Earth's first gift to the galaxy, 3 humans who did not know how to give up. The USS Defiance dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the alien star system. Jake Sullivan looked out the front window and could not believe what he saw. Giant metal ships floated in space, round one of the moons. Each ship was as big as a city. They had long arms that reached down to the moon's surface and pulled up huge chunks of rock. Smaller flying machines buzzed around like angry bees, carrying metal and stone back to the big ships. "Those are the Ravagers, Carl," Bennett said, studying his computer screens. "They're taking that moon apart piece by piece." Amy Roberts flew their ship behind a floating piece of broken metal. It was part of an alien space station that the Ravagers had destroyed. "Look at the size of those things. How are we supposed to fight that?" Jake watched the robot machines work. They moved with perfect timing, like parts of one giant machine. "We watch and learn first," Carl, can you figure out how they work? For 3 days, they hid in the wreckage and studied the enemy. Carl learned that the Ravagers were not alive. They were machines that could build more machines. They talked to each other using signals that moved faster than light. They're like a swarm of metal insects, Carl explained. Each one knows what all the others are doing. When one learns something new, they all learn it. On the 3rd day, they saw something that made them all angry. A group of alien ships was trying to escape from the inner part of the system.
Oh.
Ships were beautiful and smooth, like they were made from pearl and silver, but they were also damaged and moving slowly. Those must be the aliens who sent the message, Jake said. The Zephyrians, the Ravager machines, saw the escaping ships too. 6 metal hunters broke away from the mining group and flew toward the aliens. The alien ships tried to run, but they were too slow and too hurt. We have to help them, Amy said. Against those things. We're just one small ship, Carl pointed out. Jake was already moving to the weapon controls, and we better make it count. Amy, get us moving. Carl, target their communication systems. Amy flew the USS Defiance out from behind the wreckage. The ship was much smaller than the Ravager hunters, but it was also much faster. She dove toward the closest enemy machine, flying between its metal arms like she was dodging buildings in a city. The Ravagers tried to shoot them with energy beams. But Amy was too quick. I spun the ship and rolled it sideways, making the enemy weapons miss. Meanwhile, Jake fired their missiles at the weak points Carl had found. The first missile hit a Ravager in its communication dish. The machine stopped moving for a moment, like it was confused. The second missile hit another machine in its main computer. That one started spinning in circles, unable to control itself. It's working, Carl shouted. When you damage their communication systems, they can't coordinate with each other. But there were still 4 more Ravager hunters, and now they were all shooting at the human ship. Amy flew toward the biggest enemy machine, going so fast that Jake's stomach felt like it was floating. What are you doing? Jake asked. Something stupid, Amy replied with a grin. She flew straight at the giant Ravager. Then, at the last second, she flew up and over it. The machine tried to follow her, but it was too big and slow. It crashed into another Ravager behind it, and both machines exploded in a ball of fire and metal. The 2 remaining Ravagers stopped chasing the human ship and went back to the alien ships they had been hunting. But now Jake was angry. These machines thought they could just kill anyone they wanted. Give me our biggest weapon, Jake said. That would be the nuclear missile, Carl replied. But Jake, we only have one of those. Then we better not miss. Fired the nuclear missile at the largest Ravager. The weapon was different from anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of energy beams or plasma bolts, it was an explosion that came from splitting atoms apart. When the missile hit, the explosion was so bright that they had to close their eyes. When they looked again, there was nothing left of the Ravager except glowing pieces of metal floating in space. The last enemy machine tried to run away, but Amy chased it down. She flew in circles around it while Jake shot it with their smaller weapons until it finally broke apart. All enemy ships destroyed, Amy announced, like she had just finished a training exercise instead of humanity's first battle with alien robots. They flew over to the damaged alien ships. One of them was leaking air and water into space. Jake could see shapes moving inside through the holes in the hull. We need to help them, Jake said. Bring us close to that ship. Amy carefully moved their ship next to the alien vessel. Jake and Carl put on spacesuits and opened their airlock. They floated across the empty space between the ships, went inside the alien vessel. The inside of the ship was full of water. Swimming in the water was a creature unlike anything they had ever imagined. It had a long, smooth body like a dolphin, but with tentacles instead of fins. Its skin was blue and seemed to glow with soft light. The creature was hurt. There was a piece of metal stuck in its side, and it was bleeding blue blood into the water. Carl pulled out their medical kit and started helping the injured alien. The creature watched them with large, intelligent eyes. It made sounds like singing mixed with clicking. I think it's trying to talk to us, Carl said. The alien reached for a device on the wall. When it touched the device, words came out in English. "What are you? Your ship is so small, but you defeated the Ravagers. How is this possible?" "We're humans," Jake replied. "We're from a planet called Earth. We got your message asking for help." The alien's eyes got bigger. "Came from outside the galaxy." "But that's impossible. Nothing lives in the outer regions. Those areas are too dangerous." Carl was working on the alien's wound while he talked. "Our planet is pretty dangerous too. We had to learn to survive in difficult places." "What is your world like?" the alien asked. Its name was Nimdai, and it was a scholar who studied other forms of life. Jake and Carl looked at each other. How could they explain Earth to someone who lived in the water on a peaceful world? "Well," Carl began, "our planet has very strong gravity. It's about 3 times stronger than what you're used to. And our air has a gas called oxygen that helps us burn energy in our bodies." Nimdai's translator device started making strange noises. "Oxygen. That's a poisonous gas. How do you survive breathing poison?" "It's not poison to us," Jake explained. "We need it to live, and our planet has lots of different environments. Hot deserts, frozen mountains, deep oceans, thick forests. We had to learn to survive in all of them." "Possible," Nimdai said. "No creature can adapt to so many different environments. Your planet sounds like what we call a death world." His voice came through their radio. "Guys, we have company. More Ravager ships are coming this way. A lot more." Jake looked out through the hole in the alien ship's hull. In the distance, he could see dozens of metal shapes moving toward them. "We're much bigger than the ones they had just fought."
"Out and die."
"Can your ship still fly?" Jake asked. "No, our engines are broken. We are trapped here. Made a decision that would change everything, and you're coming with us. Carl, help him to our ship. Amy, get ready to run." "Wait," Nimdai said as they carried him toward the human ship. "You're going to fight all those Ravagers? That's suicide. They'll destroy you." Jake helped the alien into their ship while Amy started the engines. "Maybe, but we've never been very good at giving up." As the USS Defiance flew away from the approaching enemy fleet, Nimdai watched the humans work. They moved quickly and calmly, like fighting impossible odds, was something they did every day. "How many humans are there?" Nimdai asked. "About 8 billion, Carl replied while checking the alien's bandages. The translator device made more strange sounds. 8 billion creatures from a death world. All with the same stubborn refusal to surrender that these 3 showed. Nimdai realized that the galaxy was about to change forever. The call for help had reached something far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. They had asked for salvation, but instead, they had awakened predators from a world where only the strongest could survive, and those predators were coming to help. The news of the human victory spread through the galaxy faster than anyone thought possible. In the Great Council chambers, beings from many worlds watched the recordings that Nimdai had sent them. They saw the small human ship destroy 6 Ravager hunters without taking any damage. They heard about Earth and its impossible conditions. Dr. Alina Vasquez stood in front of cameras on Earth, speaking to alien leaders across the galaxy through quantum communication. She was the best scientist they had for explaining how life worked on different planets. "Earth is what you might call an extreme world," Alina said, looking at the strange faces on her screens. Some had many eyes, others looked like walking trees, and a few were just balls of light. "Our gravity is much stronger than most planets. Our star gives off dangerous radiation. Our weather changes from burning hot to freezing cold." The alien scientist made sounds of disbelief. A creature that looked like it was made of crystal spoke first. "No life could evolve under such conditions. Your planet would kill most of our species in minutes." "That's exactly why humans are different," Alina continued. "Everything on Earth had to become tough to survive. Our plants make poison to protect themselves. Our animals hunt in groups and never give up chasing their prey. And humans became the best hunters of all." Admiral Turhan of the Altarian fleet, one of the few survivors of his world, leaned forward in his chair. "You mean your entire species evolved for war?" Elena shook her head. "Not for war, for survival. But on Earth, survival often means fighting for everything you have. The alien leaders talked among themselves in clicks, songs, and light patterns. Finally, they all agreed on one thing. They needed Earth's help, and they would give humans anything they wanted in return. The response from Earth was bigger than anyone expected. 3 weeks later, not one ship, but 50 ships appeared at the edge of Zephyrian space. They came out, a faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, like a pack of metal wolves. The alien observers who watched them arrive had never seen ships like these. Human vessels were thick and angular, covered in armor plating. They had weapons pointing in every direction. These ships were built for close fighting, not the long-range energy battles that most aliens preferred. Commander Dan Walsh led the human fleet from the bridge of the UES Vengeance. Was a career military officer who had fought in wars on 3 U.S. continents. His gray hair and scarred hands showed his experience, but his eyes were sharp and alert. All ships, this is Vengeance Actual, Dan spoke into his radio. We're here to save some aliens and kick some robot ass. Let's show them what Earth can do. The fleet included many different types of ships. These were cargo vessels that had been fitted with shields and weapons. Others were mining ships with cutting tools that could slice through metal like butter. But the most important ships carried the Marines. Colonel Rita Foster commanded the first human soldiers ever deployed in space. She was 45 years old and had been fighting in dangerous places for 20 years. Her Marines were men and women who had trained on Earth's harshest environments, from frozen mountains to burning deserts. Listen up, Marines, Rita told her troops over the radio. The aliens think war is about fancy energy weapons and polite battles. We're going to show them how humans fight. We use everything as a weapon, including the planet itself. The first test came at Titus Prime, a Zephyrian colony world that the Ravagers had just started attacking. The robot machines had landed their giant mining ships on the planet's surface and begun eating the mountains and cities. Don Walsh looked at the tactical display showing the enemy positions. My Fla's massive Ravager processors were strip mining the planet while hundreds of smaller machines guarded them. Standard Galactic doctrine says we should engage the enemy fleet in space first, said Lieutenant Commander Su Chen, Dan's tactical officer. But those mining ships are dug in deep. It would take days to dig them out with conventional weapons. Dan smiled. Good thing we're not conventional. Colonel Foster, are your Marines ready for a ground assault? Always ready, sir, Rita replied. From her transport ship, what happened next shocked every alien observer in the system. Instead of fighting the Ravager fleet in space, the human ships dove straight down into the planet's atmosphere. Their hulls glowed red-hot from the speed of entry. But the thick armor protected them. The transport ships opened their doors while still flying through the air. Human Marines jumped out wearing metal suits that helped them fly. They landed right in the middle of the Ravager mining operations, like metal angels dropping from the sky. The aliens watching from orbit, never seen anything like it. Galactic warfare was usually polite and organized. Armies met in open space and shot energy beams at each other until one side gave up. Nobody ever fought on planets because it was too messy and dangerous. But humans seemed to like messy and dangerous. Sergeant Tony Martinez led his squad directly into a Ravager processing plant. The machines inside were designed to fight other machines, not small, fast targets that moved like they were crazy. Remember your training? Tony shouted to his Marines as they ran between giant metal legs and spinning cutting tools. These robots think logically, so we do the most illogical thing possible. His squad planted explosive charges on the main support beams of the processing plant, then ran outside. When the charges went off, the entire structure collapsed, like a house of cards, crushing millions of dollars worth of Ravager equipment. Other Marine units were doing the same thing all across the planet. They used the Ravager's own mining tunnels against them, collapsing caves and burying entire machine formations. They turned processing plants into giant bombs by overloading their power systems, but the most impressive attack came from Corporal Lisa Park and her engineering team. They noticed that Titus Prime was located near a fault line in the planet's crust. The Ravager mining had made the fault line unstable. Sir, I have an idea, Lisa told Colonel Foster over the radio. but you're going to think I'm crazy. Try me, Rita replied. What if we use nuclear charges to trigger an earthquake? The whole Ravager operation is sitting right on top of the fault line. Rita was quiet for a moment. Using a planet's own geology as a weapon was something no alien military had ever tried. Do it. Lisa and her team spent 6 hours placing charges at exactly the right spots along the fault line. They used mathematical calculations that took into account the planet's rotation, the soil composition, the stress patterns from the Ravager mining. When the charges went off, the ground shook for hundreds of miles. Cracks opened up in the earth and swallowed entire Ravager formations. Processing plants that had taken weeks to build disappeared into holes in the ground in seconds. The aliens watching from space were speechless. Admiral Terhen finally found his voice. They turned the planet into a weapon. How is that even possible? Battle for Titus Prime lasted 18 hours. When it was over, every Ravager machine on the planet was destroyed or buried. The human Marines had lost only 12 soldiers out of 3,000. But more importantly, they had saved over 2 million Zephyrian colonists who had been trapped in underground shelters. Commander Walsh stood on the bridge of his ship, looking down at the planet where his Marines were helping alien civilians rebuild their cities. His tactical officer, Su Chen, was studying the battle reports. Sir, the Galactic observers are calling our tactics revolutionary, Su reported. They're saying we've changed the nature of warfare itself. Don nodded. We didn't change anything. We just fought the way humans always fight. Use whatever works. On the planet below, Colonel Foster was meeting with the Zephyrian governor, a tall blue being named Counselor Velenith. The alien's tentacles moved in patterns that meant gratitude and amazement. Your soldiers fight like the legends of the old days, Velenith said through his translator. Like warriors who make the very ground their ally. Rita looked around at her Marines helping alien children find their families and clearing rubble. From destroyed buildings, we fight for things that matter. And right now, that means keeping you and your people alive. As news of the victory at Titus Prime spread through the galaxy, something important happened. Species that had been preparing to die suddenly started hoping they might live. The humans had shown them that the Ravagers could be beaten, and more importantly, they had shown them a completely new way of thinking about survival. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the best defense is a good offense, especially when that offense comes from a species that evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill them every single day, and the humans were just getting started. The Ravagers had been watching and learning. 3 months after the defeat at Titus Prime, they struck back with machines that were completely different from before. The new Ravagers had thicker armor that could survive nuclear explosions. Their communication systems were spread throughout their bodies, so they could not be easily broken. Worst of all, they seemed to predict what humans would do before the humans did it. The adapted swarm hit the industrial world of Mechanicus, the 7th, without warning. This planet was where most of the galaxy's spaceships were built. If the Ravagers took it, the aliens would have no way to build new fleets to fight back. Admiral Jake Sullivan, now in command of all human space forces, arrived at Mechanicus the 7th with his largest fleet yet. 100 human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, ready to use the same tactics that had worked so well before. But this time, everything went wrong. The Ravagers were waiting for them. The moment the human ships appeared, enemy machines that looked like giant metal spiders shot nets of electric energy at them. The nets were designed specifically to stop human ships from flying their fast attack patterns. They're jamming our communications, reported Captain Amy Roberts from her ship, the UES Darwin, and their armor is deflecting our missiles. Watched his tactical display with growing worry. His ships were taking heavy damage, and they had barely hurt the enemy at all. All ships fall back to defensive positions. We need to rethink this. On the planet below, Colonel Rita Foster and her Marines were having the same problems. The new Ravager ground units moved differently. Instead of working alone, they stayed in tight groups that protected each other. When the Marines tried to plant explosives, the Ravagers were ready for them. They know all our tricks, Rita told her officers during a brief pause in the fighting. Every time we try something, they have a counter for it. Dr. Carl Bennett, now serving as the fleet's science officer, was studying captured Ravager technology in his laboratory. What he found made his blood run cold. "Jake, you need to see this," he called over the radio. Jake left the bridge and went to Carl's lab. On the table was a piece of Ravager armor that had been blown off during the battle. But this was not like the old armor. This piece had human technology built into it. "They're not just learning our tactics," Carl explained, pointing at the metal with his finger. "They're copying our technology and making it better. Look at this section here. That's based on our nuclear missile design, but they've made it into armor plating." Jake felt sick. "I mean, every time we fight them, we're teaching them how to beat us worse than that," Carl said. "I think they're starting to think like humans. Look at this battle pattern." He showed Jake a computer display of how the Ravagers had arranged their forces. "This isn't their usual logical formation. This is creative. This is tactical thinking." The battle for Mechanicus, the 7th, dragged on for 2 weeks. Human casualties were higher than they had ever been. Ships that should have been able to outfight any enemy were being destroyed by machines that fought with human-like cunning. On the 13th day of the battle, Jake was in his command center when Lieutenant Commander Su Chen brought him an idea that sounded completely crazy. "Sir, what if we stopped fighting like a military?" Su suggested. "The Ravagers have learned to counter our organized tactics. But there's one type of warfare they haven't seen yet." "Do you mean?" Jake asked. Su pulled up images from Earth's history on her computer. Guerrilla warfare, small groups that hit and run. No central command, no predictable patterns. We spread out across dozens of star systems and attack everywhere at once. Jake studied the plan. It meant breaking up his fleet and sending small groups of ships to remote systems where they would build secret bases. From there, they would launch surprise attacks on Ravager supply lines and communication networks. "It's risky," Jake said. "If we spread out too thin, they could defeat us piece by piece." "But sir," Amy Roberts added, joining the conversation, "that's exactly what makes it unpredictable. The Ravagers expect us to fight logically. This plan is completely illogical." Jake made the decision that would change the war. Do it. Break up the fleet into teams of 3 or 4 ships. Send them to every system within 50 light years. Tell them to build bases and start making the Ravagers' lives miserable. Operation Kudzu began 3 days later. Human teams spread across the galaxy like seeds in the wind. Major Pete Williams took his team to a dead system where they built a hidden base inside an asteroid. Captain Linda Ross led her ships to an abandoned mining world and turned the old tunnels into a fortress. The results were immediate and dramatic. Ravager supply convoys that had traveled the same routes for years suddenly started exploding. Communication relays that had never been threatened began going offline. Mining operations in supposedly safe systems found their equipment sabotaged by humans who appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. The psychological effect on the galaxy was enormous. Species that had only known defensive warfare watched humans turn entire regions of space into hunting grounds. The Zephyrians created a new word in their language, terraforming, but not to make planets suitable for life. They used it to describe how humans made any environment suitable for war. But the Ravagers were not finished learning. 6 months into Operation Kudzu, they made a decision that surprised everyone. Instead of chasing the scattered human teams, they decided to strike directly at Earth itself. Long-range sensors detected the largest Ravager fleet ever assembled, heading toward the solar system. Over 1,000 machine ships, including some so large they could be seen from planets light years away. "They think if they destroy our home world, we'll stop fighting," Jake told his staff during an emergency meeting. "They don't understand humans very well." The defense of Earth became the largest battle in galactic history. Every human ship that could fly rushed back to protect their home world. But they were not alone. Alien fleets from dozens of species joined them, wanting to help the people who had saved them. The space around Earth became a maze of defensive platforms, minefields, and weapon systems. Colonel Foster's Marines, now numbering in the millions, turned the moon into a fortress. Even Earth cities were prepared for war. but with civilians ready to fight if the robots made it to the surface. When the Ravager fleet arrived, they found something they had not expected. Earth was not just defended by human technology. It was protected by the combined forces of every species humans had saved. Zephyrian water ships provided cover for human fighters. Altarian energy weapons powered massive defensive platforms. Crystal beings from Luna 7 created shields that could stop entire fleets. But the most important defense was something the Ravagers could not understand or counter: determination. They picked the wrong planet to threaten, Jake said, as he watched the enemy fleet approach on his screens. You don't attack a Deathworlders' home and expect them to surrender. The Battle of Earth lasted 3 days and 3 nights. Space around the planet burned with the light of exploding ships and energy weapons. On the surface, people from around the world watched the lights in the sky and knew their species was fighting for survival. The Ravagers threw everything they had at Earth's defenses. Their new adaptive technology allowed them to counter many human tactics. Their learning computers tried to predict every move the defenders would make, but they could not predict the moment when Captain Amy Roberts was flying a damaged fighter with no weapons left rammed her ship directly into the Ravager command vessel, or when Marine Sergeant Tony Martinez detonated his own armor to destroy a boarding party that had made it onto a defensive platform. The Ravagers had learned to fight like humans, but they had not learned the most important human trait: the willingness to sacrifice everything for the people you care about. On the 3rd day, the surviving Ravager ships began to retreat as they fled toward the edge of the solar system. They transmitted a message that would become legendary throughout the galaxy. Target species exhibits extreme territorial aggression. Recommend avoiding Sol system indefinitely. Earth had survived. But more importantly, humanity had proven something to the galaxy and to themselves. They were not just good at fighting. They were good at inspiring others to fight alongside them. The age of human isolation was over. The age of galactic cooperation had begun.